Every single year, the Torah has us, immediately before the Chagim, right before the high holidays, we touch down with a Parshat that is full, a portion of the Torah that is full of commandments, full of more commandments than any other Parshat of the Torah. I want to highlight two of them, well, one commandment really, and then one scene. The Torah tells us that if you see the donkey or the ox here, it's definitely, if you see the ox of your friend and of your enemy rather, and it's by the side of the road, you have to bring it back. Lo tuchal hitalem. You're not allowed to ignore it. Hashev tishivem la'achicha. Make sure you bring it back. The fundamental sensibility of the Torah is that Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh Bazeh Zeh Lazeh. Each and every one of us is responsible for one another. We're part of one large family. Even if we have multiple sub-communities within that family, we are all interwoven. We have responsibility one for the other. If I find something that belongs to you, I have to return it to you. And Torah says, Lo tuchal litalem. You are not able to ignore it. It's a very strange thing to say because you really could ignore it, couldn't you? And in fact, in an earlier part of the Torah where this particular law, this commandment, this lo ta'aseh, you're not allowed, this kind of don't do that, it doesn't say lo tuchal, it says al titalem. Don't ignore it. What's lo tuchal lihitalem? Why you're not able lihitalem? So, one of the great Kabbalists, one of the great mystics of our tradition, Rabbi Abraham Uzulai, said, because Sha'adam, if you are really somebody who is feeling, Ubal korcho yitgalgel shuv le'olam, a person came back, like if you did a mistake and you come back into a situation again in your life, the Torah says, Lo tuchal litalem, you can't ignore it without it doing damage. That ignoring the plight of someone else, acting as if what happens to another person, acting as if what is going on around us is not in us, is not possible. We think it's possible. We think we can inure ourselves from the plight of those who have things that we and only we can return to them, and that means all of us, because there are things each and every one of us alone can return to others. There's something that each and every one of us in our relationships and our communities, we think as if we're fine. We think as if it can go on this way and there isn't in any way, any damage. Like some of the theories going on now about the return of Broadway and live theater. Like once we're without it, maybe we don't need it. Maybe the greatest danger right now in our sphere, as a friend of mine told me, is that we are becoming greater and greater because of urgency and because of necessity. We are becoming better and better at being alone, more efficient at being alone. We go through entire days where all of our interactions happen through the interface of a beautifully slick piece of glass. We get into a car, and then, as my friend said, we forget to give a tip to the Uber driver we've never spoken to, but it's in the phone. And 2 days later, we give them a tip without ever having exchanged a word. Lo tuchal litalem doesn't mean you can't ignore it. You can. But if you do ignore the exchanges that happen each and every day and the moments where something is called upon from us to be interacting with other human beings, there's a responsibility there. But there's maybe more importantly, there's an ontological truth. We need each other deeply. We return things to each other. We come and say, hey, Can you give me back my soul, brother, sister, friend? Can you give me back my hope? I want to speak to you. I want to see you. I want to talk to you. I had a chance this past week to go on a camping trip for a day with my youngest son, and we went with a certain friend of mine and his young son. And as we left the camping grounds, we decided, because of my brilliant friend, to just take a spazier. For those who don't know that English word, it means we just went on a stroll in our car to just meet the folks who were in the camping grounds. It was a holy, holy moment. They gave me back something that I have been looking for. A sense of connection, a sense of story, a sense of body language, a sense of human fraternity and deep kinship. The Torah tells us, Ki Teitzei milchama, in the beginning of the Parshat, the Torah will tell us when you go out to war, a very problematic part of the Torah portion, when you go out to war and you see a beautiful woman, those of you who don't know this part of the Torah, it's a very deeply troubling piece. It's called the Eshet Yifat Torah, this beautifully captive woman, a woman who's been taken hostage. It is a deeply painful piece just to read on the simple reading from our own moral values and where we are in our world. But as we have done for over a decade here in this shul and many other shuls, we read it the way the 13th century Zohar reads it, as an allegory about the soul and about the Shekhinah. The divine presence is taken captive, as it were. In the world, the divine presence is Vishavita Shevi. It's kind of, it's hidden, it's taken hostage, says the Zohar. And what's remarkable about this piece of Torah, as it comes right before the Chagim, is that we never stop to ask that the Torah describes this Isha Yifat Torah. You see a beautiful woman. Why does she have to be beautiful? In other words, why does the Shekhinah have to be beautiful here? And the Torah is not just telling you about an old story in this allegory, it's actually giving you a description on how to wage war against what the rabbis call the Yetzer Hara, that part of us that tends to see things in the world as mine versus yours. It tends to see the world through ego and competition and through walls as opposed to strength in living without them. And the Torah is telling us that we need to look for the beautiful that is held captive. We need to search out and seek it out and make it our business to celebrate that which is beautiful, that which is life-giving, life-affirming, in this allegory of the soul that needs beauty, it needs contact, it needs connection. Lo tuchali talem. We need to return things to one another, and we need to find beauty, now more than ever. So I want to lift up two brothers who have given me back something and who have given others many things in this community. And I want to tell them how beautiful they are because I want to practice what I preach. The first brother is the executive director of this community who is here with us tonight. In our community, we spend a lot of time thanking people, and that's because we value the importance of giving thanks. And I also want to thank you, Jeffrey, but I also want to say, more importantly for me, is that for me personally, we wouldn't be able to hold this community without you. Your leadership, your sensitivity, your diligence. I know there isn't a night that goes by during this pandemic where you haven't thought, first and foremost, about what this community needs in order to continue to do what it needs to do. I know that it's still happening. I know that even as I spoke to you today, you were on the way into the city and trying to, assimilate all of the information that you are gathering together so that you and the leadership team can make informed decisions on behalf of this community. I know that it is a labor of love. You would do this for free, even though, thankfully, you don't. That it was over a decade that you wanted, actually, this position. You saw it as part of your life's mission. There aren't many executive directors who say to themselves, this is my daemon. This is what I want to do. I want to run a spiritual community because all of my life has been leading to this moment. And you said that to us, and we didn't listen. And thankfully, for the last 3 years, and God willing, many more, you are somebody who returns to me and others over and over again all the time the things that should never be ignored and that only you alone can give. And you're beautiful. And the second brother is here tonight, and I hoped he was going to come. And he also is in the category of an executive director who has given his life for the sake of giving something to this community and to other communities. And so, together with Liz, who's also worked on so many levels for this community, behind the scenes, making the shul and making the center come back to life, Liz. Your home has been a home for many members of our community, and beyond that, the two of you, Nigel and Liz, have had a home that has been open to so many others in this community who have found nourishment in conversation, in your delicious food, in your hospitality, in your uniqueness, your absolutely unique nature, the two of you. And my brother Nigel will be leaving for Israel this Sunday, and getting on a jet plane, don't know when I'll be back again. But you gave me this, as I left your house. And I'll wear this Manchester United mask with pride when I think of you in Yerushalayim. You have been a leader in the Jewish community in thinking about the crisis of climate change and the earth scorching, as Arthur Roscoe would say. You've been a leader in raising environmental issues. You have been a leader in ethical and spiritual principles involved in all consuming and kashrut. You have run the Isabella Friedman Retreat Center, where there have been literally thousands of people who've come and have had their souls returned to them, their Jewish soul, because you, lo tuchalit aleim, you said, I can't ignore this. I have to bring this back. I have something to do. And so I wanted to thank you, too, for all of the time that we spent together here and beyond, and let you know that the beauty of who you are has not been lost on me and on my family and all of those in leadership here in this community. Your time on the Roma board was absolutely priceless, and we will never forget your contributions. And so we thank you and we bless you that as you go forth into your next phase, that you will remember this community and remember all of us in Yerushalayim. I want to pray with all of you tonight that in the coming 2 weeks, as we make our way towards Rosh Hashanah, that we do the hard work of looking for the beautiful as often as possible. It's captive, but we can release it. And lastly, let's not forget, and let's remind ourselves over and over again of how inextricably interwoven all of us are with one another. And those small moments matter. Much is returned when we stop and don't ignore.